Welcome to the podcast on UX design. So we have Ms. Stacey from IBM having 25 years of experience in the field of UX and interaction design. And she is also a postgraduate from University of California in the field of human-computer interaction design. So welcome you, Stacey, at Alliance School of Design to share your experience. So maybe we can start the conversation with a few questions related to UX awareness. So, may I ask you, what's your definition of UX and how it is different from UI?
Yeah, great question. So UI, that's like the end result. That's the thing that anybody sees when they're actually interacting with a system or a tool or whatever the interface has been designed for. The user experience design is every part of it. It's everything that's going on behind the scenes, under the covers, connecting the back ends to the front ends, allowing seamless interaction, allowing whoever is using the thing that they're interacting with to actually get value. That's the interaction design is all the important stuff, I would argue. The UI design is kind of like the finishing touches, making sure that the labels on the buttons are clear to read, making sure that the color contrast on the screen is appropriate. But you would never start with designing an interface without going through the entire process of ensuring that the experience you're designing to start with isn't usable, valuable, accessible, and actually solving a real problem.
Very well said. I completely agree with you. Now, may I request you to relate the user experience with human emotions, how it is related and how human emotion capturing is important for UX designers?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's kind of broadly like 4 ways that as a designer you can really tap into human emotion in a way that's sometimes conscious, but oftentimes it's subconscious or unconscious even. And one of those ways is helping people feel like they're doing good, whatever that means to them. And it's one of those things that it's the hardest to do, I would say, because what you're trying to do is probably sell somebody something or enable them to get some job to be done. But if you can allow them to feel like, hey, I did something good today for another person, a group of people, some population, that's like the name of the game. That is tapping into a level of human psychology that, again, very hard to do, but if you can, and I think Tom's Shoes is an American brand of shoes that's really good at this.
Which one?
Tom's Shoes.
Oh,
So they,
yeah,
when
it's
you
very
buy,
famous.
yeah, when you buy one pair, by the nature of your purchase, you're donating another pair to other people. That point is what drives a lot of their sales. It has nothing to do with the interface of their site, the design of their shoes, or even the sales model that they're using. It's actually all about the marketing, which is something that I think a lot of interaction and experience designers forget. You can make the most amazing, usable, beautiful thing in the world. If nobody knows about it and doesn't have a reason to know about it, it's never going to get used. So that brand has been able to tap in a very different way to that human emotion of helping people feel like they're doing good.
Oh, great. So, from your answer, we certainly understood that user experience design is beyond the screen, right?
Oh, yes.
So, it's everywhere integrated into different consumer related services. So, related to this particular area, I want to also wants you to emphasis on the user research. So, how user research is helping UX designers to understand the problems, the pain points related to the target audience, if you could put some light on this line.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's broadly two kinds of research. You've got your generative research, so the work that the research you're doing at the upfront, at the beginning, to understand, to your point, what is the problem? Is there a problem? Whose problem is this? And that's usually quite a bit of qualitative research. And that's the other way that research is split. There's quantitative and qualitative. And so you're probably going to do a bunch of qualitative, generative research to figure out your problem space. Otherwise, you run the risk of just charging into a solution without truly understanding who is this solution for? What is it really solving for? Is it solving anything? And then after you've built the thing and you've started to put it into the market, you're looking at more formative research.
True.
So evaluating, did it do what we thought it would do? Is it actually helping people? Is it easy to use? When somebody gets to a screen, is what they expected to happen able to happen for them? And at that point, you're probably looking at much more quantitative research, which means you're going to talk to a lot more people with the same question.
True.
What did you see? Does this screen do what you think it was going to do? Or what did you think that screen was going to help you do? But it's all about first having a hypothesis, really, of what's the problem, how can we fix it, and talking to people to get at that, doing some work, hopefully quickly, getting some feedback, hopefully quickly, about is it working, are we on the right track, and ultimately, once you've launched it to the public, then really doing some ongoing studies, and hopefully your thing that you've designed is instrumented to automatically be giving you some data about the funnel of your experience. Where is it breaking? And then you can keep iterating and improving and so on.
True. Oftenly we heard the word contextual inquiry, right? So, do you think contextual inquiry really helps for designers to get quick insights from target audience or users?
It's a really good question, and I'm of two minds on this, really, because contextual inquiries can take a long time to do. And it also requires, depending on what's the situation that you're studying, if it's something in the medical field or even like a high security kind of a situation, or armed forces, there are situations where it's not easy to get yourself as the researcher or designer into the room with these people to actually watch them. So that alone can take a long time just to get the pass to get in and watch. Once you do, even watching 5 minutes of your actual user's whole life, including like what does their chair look like? What's the lighting in the room that they're working in? Who's coming in and out and interrupting them? All these little data points are so rich to helping the designer understand the world that they're trying to design the thing for that person in. That said, you can get lost. In my opinion, you can really kind of get lost in the weeds when you're doing a contextual inquiry. So it's really important to put some guidelines in place. Otherwise, I have found myself just sitting in the corner, watching what's going on and taking notes on things that ultimately I knew at the time even were completely irrelevant. But like, oh, fascinating. Everybody in this space is wearing blue shoes. Has nothing to do with what's going on. It happened to be the 5 people I saw walk through that space that day have blue shoes. But it's super valuable if you can quickly get in and then time box. I'm going to be here for a day. I'm going to be here for half a day, and just sort of set yourself up. Be the fly on the wall. Observe. If you are allowed and able to interrupt, I've done this kind of work in medical facilities. They're not going to interrupt the surgery to answer your questions. So if you can interrupt and ask, what are you doing? What were you expecting to do? Who was that guy that just came in and interrupted and now you're on a different task?
True.
These are just super rich details.
We can get from contextual inquiry, right?
Yeah.
Great. So my next question is to how we can define the UX design problem after completing the research, and what are the important things you feel um, to define any kind of design problem statement?
I would argue that if you're starting to do research without a problem statement, why are you doing like you're just doing research for the sake of research? Because you without a hypothesis, and that's really what it comes down to, is having a hypothesis on this. Here's what I observed, or here's what I was told is a problem, depending on what the situation is. Now I'm just going to go do some research on that to learn more. Yes, to a point, until you have an informed opinion on the hypothesis of what might be going on here and what might be able to be an intervention or solution. Otherwise, you run the risk of wasting time and money and valuable resources on doing too much research on irrelevant things.
Yeah, true. So, what are the typical softwares that industry uses for UI design?
You want to know for today or yesterday or 2 weeks ago? It changes that fast.
Very well said. Maybe you could highlight what we use today and very relevant skill for students to build on those lines.
Absolutely. So I would say most common current tools: Adobe XD, Sketch, and I can't even think of what the third one is that everybody.
Figma.
Figma. Sorry. Yeah, of course. And but I made a joke at the start of my answer here. It changes.
True.
Constantly.
True.
And so it shouldn't matter what the software is. Just get good at teaching yourself software. That said, Adobe in particular has a really steep learning curve for all of their products. But if you learn one Adobe piece of software, they're similar enough that it's easy enough to then pick up another Adobe software. So of the three, it'll take the longest to learn Adobe XD. My opinion, it'll be the most valuable long term, because you can apply that very in-depth interface that you spent so long learning how to use to other design products.
Well said. So, do you think the IBM and other software industries are training the professionals time to time for upcoming softwares or the newly launched softwares for prototyping purpose?
That is such a good question. I think that at IBM and other companies I've worked at, there's both. It depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to senior design leaders who probably aren't doing as much fingers to keyboard prototyping at that point in their career, they've forgotten what it's like to learn new software, like literally what that's like. So if you talk to those folks, they're like, we don't need to train our employees on how to use new software. You know how to teach yourself software. Go learn it. Do it. There's a lot of people, though, who really need some kind of systematic, help me learn how to use all of the different features in this software so that I'm using it most effectively. So I've found in my experience, the business often won't provide that kind of training. Somebody in the business takes it upon themselves and realizes, well, I figured out Figma quickly, but I'm watching all of my peers really struggle. So I'm going to set up a couple of lunch and learn sessions or a couple of tutorials to help everybody else get up to speed. And often that's the way that person then gets a promotion to do more education, more facilitating of the newer designers. But it's something that is needed for a lot of people. And there's an assumption from the business of like, software changes, you should be able to figure it out.
True. Um, so oftenly expert says that learning and experience are related matters. So can you put some light on that, how learning and experience is related and how we can also apply those relationship into UX.
And when you say learning and experience, do you mean like broadly in life?
Maybe.
Okay. So that's how I'm taking this, and I think it's imperative that you're always learning, consistently learning something new. Even if it's a factoid that doesn't seem relevant to design or to the market or the field that you're working in. Just more knowledge is better than less. Just like talking to one user is better than talking to none. Um, the experience, there's no shortcuts around that.
True.
You just have to keep doing the job and broadening your skill set. I think that's a key to, and that sort of weaves learning and experience together, is the more variety of experiences you have, and maybe even different roles. So being a PM for a bit, if you're able to do some front end coding, be a front end engineer for a bit, because it really helps you to gain empathy for the stakeholders you're directly working with every day on your work. It allows you to understand them. Hopefully you can then help them understand you better. But if you're constantly learning and constantly growing your own knowledge base and understanding of really the universe around you, the experience will come. There's no shortcut to that. Whereas learning is a kind of a way to shortcut your understanding of everything.
Very true. So probably we have to continue our learning throughout our life, and there are lots of learning from our experience also. So we experience our environment, we experience people, and we also interact with them. So lots of experiences and learning come from uh, this kind of activities and environment, right? So maybe we can a little bit diverse our discussion towards my first question that I asked: what is the difference between UX and UI? So what are the um, activity or role-wise difference in these two? What do you think? How UX and UI designers are differently playing roles in different contexts?
Yeah, it really varies. When you're talking about in industry, it really varies by the company. So there's definitely companies who are hiring one person to do UX design and UI design. Then, and they're probably called UX/UI designer
Yeah.
or interaction designer or product designer. And you're expected maybe even to do the research too, the whole end to end. The larger the company, the more specialized the roles get. Then you've got interaction designers, you've got visual designers, you've got content designers, you've got service designers, and all these people need to work together. So it really varies. But if we are talking about the delineation between like what does an interaction designer do versus what does a UI designer do, the interaction designer is deciding and designing when I do X, when I click that button, or when I open this thing, what happens?
True.
The UI designer is the one who's saying, and it looks like this. It's yellow. It's bright. It glows. Whatever it's the visual details. They're related skill sets. They can be the same person if you have that broad of a skill set. The larger companies aren't going to allow you in many cases to have both roles. So it's really useful to understand where that line gets drawn in the context of where you're working.
True. And that context is pretty much important to know for us. Again, if I talk about the UX or interaction design job ecosystem, so there are two kinds of possibilities probably new or young designers get in. So one is that agile kind of ecosystem, another is lean ecosystem. Generally startups and folks like that use that kind of ecosystem in place to go for immediate launching of product. So now how we can differentiate the research strategies, UX research strategies in this both ecosystem, agile versus lean, if you put some light on that?
Yeah. So in my personal experiences, often a UX researcher, especially in a lean startup, is one of the last people to get hired. Because if you don't have the thing to sell and you don't have the people to sell it, there's no point in having the startup. So the designer and more so the researcher are often some of the last hires in these lean startups. And it means you're thrown in to an existing team that already has a way of working, and now you need to find out how you can add value because those folks do not understand. We've been doing this fine without somebody do it like you. What value are you bringing us? And if you're not able to sort of humble yourself a little, swallow a little bit of ego, and understand I need to find a way to fit into their system. Their system may be dysfunctional. They may be putting out dangerous things into the market because they are moving too quickly. It's not my place at this point in time as a new hire to point that out and say, and no, I'm not doing that. It's really important to understand what's the situation? How can I fit in? How can I add value quickly so that when my one salesperson, my one product manager, and the CEO see, oh, well, you added some value in that little tiny way, then you have the clout. You have a platform to stand on when you say, and I have a suggestion that you let me start doing more research up front to help inform what are you going to do? What are you going to release? Agile, it's it's similar in that way. It's a whole different format of working, but similarly, those teams have that's a well-oiled machine and they're working on a week or 2 week sprints. They have a very time-boxed, we're going to um, figure out our pointing system. How much work can we take in for this 1 or 2 week epic engineering sprint? And especially a new or early career designer looks at that system and is like, okay, great, you have a system that works. Where do I fit in?
True.
And they're looking at you like, no, well, we can tell you where we think you should fit in, and it's at the end. And if you are always coming in at the end of a design sprint to design the thing that they've built or to tweak the interface a little bit, you're never going to show the value that you can actually bring. And therefore, and since they don't know, they're never going to ask. You will never move anywhere in that company, certainly not up. And you're not really going to be providing the value that you truly can bring. So sort of my advice in that situation is similar. Sure, get thrown in, figure out where can you do little favors basically for the team.
True.
What is it they need that you may think to yourself, I am not here to change buttons from blue to red. But if that's what that team really needs for this design sprint, just do it. Show them that you're a team player, you can add value, because when you do then next sprint say, right, and I would like to add to your epic that we do some initial generative research and we're just going to talk to 5 users. It's 2 points for me. They're like, yeah, let the kid try it. So, and suddenly you can start to bring some real value. And when they see it, they'll let you do more. They'll give you more. And it's also a very empowering feeling as the designer.
True.
Like,
Right.
I can see the value I'm
Yes.
giving.
Yes. So probably thus we can strategize for the UX maturity of any UX firm. So if I refer to the UX maturity model of the Nielsen Norman Group, so probably what you said exactly should be the strategy to build the UX ecosystem in any industry. And from starting, they can start with nurturing some UX and UX research and start adding some values into the product in the startup level. Probably that startup will grow after a certain time and become mature. Along with that, the UX culture will be built in the industry ecosystem, and probably then UX researcher, UX designers will be more valued for their inputs, and thus that UX maturity level 6 happened. So, um, so nowadays we are also talking about ecosystem in terms of sustainability. So UX sustainability, or the other way, if I put my word, how we can build the UX ecosystem which is sustainable. Not only that, how we can build our solution more sustainable. So if you could put some light on that line, how we can design sustainable UI and UX.
It's something that I think this, from my perspective, this is a conversation that's just starting to be common in the field of design and in the companies who have design teams. And so when you talk about it with folks, they might think you're talking about different things. My take on this is it pays to learn more about the technology with that you're designing the experience or the wrapper around than you probably feel comfortable doing for many people. Because you may design an experience, just for argument's sake, for data analysts, that great, it's usable, it's accessible, it's viable for the business, and it's valuable to both the business and the users. Wonderful. If what you've designed requires in the back end that there's some kind of server call every 10 milliseconds, well, that's eating up power. If it's a server call that's actually running on GPUs, that's a lot of power. And if you're not even aware of these things, you run the risk of creating products, interfaces, things that really are detrimental to our entire planet's environment. So in order to inoculate against that, I guess is a good way of putting it, it's really important to understand just enough about the technology, not underlying the product that you're designing for, but the actual experience. So understand server side versus client side technology. Understand what is the difference between a GPU and other kinds of processors. How much power do these things use? What's the latency of the things that you're building? These are all questions that your engineering team probably could answer in their sleep. You just need to remember to ask them in a way that you're going to get an answer that makes sense to you.
True, true. So let me just disclose to everybody that at Alliance School of Design, we are also focusing on sustainability and the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we are also trying to look at the footprints of the activity that we do with screens like mobile phone or the laptop or any other gadgets, and how we can reduce those things, carbon footprint and all, so that we can globally go on and help the nature to become more sustainable, less pollution, and reduce the pollution, etc., etc. So that's the thing. So with this, I want to conclude the session. So thank you very much, Stacey, to being with us, and it's nice talking to you and great pleasure. And from Alliance School of Design and Alliance University, I want to really admire you, and it's a great pleasure to have you at our campus. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.